The year was 1415, and an African empire was about to change the world. While European kingdoms remained relatively isolated and technologically primitive, sophisticated African civilizations had already mastered architecture, astronomy, trade networks, and governance systems that would astound the world centuries later. But here's the question we must ask ourselves. How much do you really know about African history? Imagine standing in the ancient city of Timbuktu in Mali during the 14th century. You're surrounded by magnificent mud brick mosques, bustling marketplaces, and most remarkably, libraries containing hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. This wasn't a place of darkness or ignorance. Timbuktu was a beacon of learning, scholarship, and Islamic intellectual achievement. When Mansa Musa, the legendary emperor of Mali, made his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he traveled with 60,000 people and so much gold that his presence alone disrupted the economies of Egypt and the Middle East. This is the Africa that rarely appears in textbooks. This is the Africa that challenges everything you've been taught. Let's travel further back to the Kingdom of Kush. Between 2500 and 1500 BCE, the Kushites developed one of the world's earliest iron smelting technologies, centuries before iron became widespread in Europe. They built pyramids, yes, pyramids, and maintained a sophisticated writing system. They weren't borrowing from Egypt. They were a rival power, often ruling Egypt themselves. The Kushites produced their own pharaohs, their own gods, their own civilization. Now consider Ethiopia. In 330 CE, King Ezana of Aksum converted to Christianity, making Ethiopia one of the first Christian nations in the world. This happened when much of Europe was still pagan. Ethiopia maintained Christianity through centuries of Islamic expansion, never conquered, never colonized, preserving its independence when nearly every other African nation fell under European rule. That's not coincidence. That's strategy, strength, and the determination of a people. The great Zimbabwe civilization gives us another testament to African engineering and urban planning. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, people built a massive stone city in southern Africa without using mortar. The precision of those stone walls still baffles architects today. Archaeological evidence shows Zimbabwe was a thriving trading hub, connected to markets in China, the Arab world, and the Indian Ocean network. Yet for decades, European scholars refused to believe Africans could have built such a structure. They invented false theories about foreign builders. This wasn't scholarship. This was racism disguised as science. Fast forward to the Kingdom of Congo. In the 15th century, when Portuguese explorers first arrived, they found an organized state with diplomacy, trade agreements, and organized military structures. The Congo Kingdom had kings, nobility, and legal systems. They weren't isolated villages waiting for European salvation. They were sophisticated societies with their own trajectories, their own futures. But here's where the story darkens. The transatlantic slave trade didn't happen in a vacuum. It didn't simply appear from nowhere. European demand for labor in the Americas created an unprecedented market for enslaved people. Between 1501 and 1865, approximately 12.5 million Africans were forcibly removed from their continent. That's not history to ignore. That's history that shaped the modern world. That's history that demands we understand how Africa's people were stolen, how societies were destabilized, how wealth was extracted. Yet Africa didn't disappear. African resilience, African resistance, African genius continued. From the slave rebellions of Haiti to the independence movements of the 20th century, African and African-descended peoples reshaped history. So when you ask yourself, what do I know about African history? Really think. Do you know about the astronomers of Egypt, the traders of Timbuktu, the engineers of Zimbabwe, the warriors and queens